Alright, so this is Honors Geo 7-6. Alright, so we talked about last time SOHCAHTOA when it comes to trigonometric ratios. In 7.5 we talked about tangent being opposite over adjacent. When we talk about sine, as it pertains to right triangles, it's going to be opposite over hypotenuse. And when we talk about cosine, it's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Right? Sine, opposite hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. So when we draw the right triangle and say this is a leg, this is a leg, this is hypotenuse, ABC, and we can say that cosine of A, or sine of A, equals opposite over hypotenuse, which is BC over AC. And then cosine of A is adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm sorry, BC over AB. Cosine is going to be AC over AB. With angle B, sine of angle B is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, which is AC over AB. And then cosine of B is going to be BC over AB, adjacent over hypotenuse of angle B. Notice the pattern. Cosine of A is the same thing as sine of, sine of A is the same thing as cosine of B. Cosine of A is the same thing as sine of B. Alright, so down here, they give us a triangle. They want sine of A, sine of X, and sine of Y. So sine of X is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, so 8 over 17. And 8 over 17 is 0.4706. And then sine of Y, here's Y, opposite over hypotenuse, that's going to be 15 over 17, which is 0.8824. Here, sine of X is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 15 over 25. Which is 3/5, which is 0.6. And then sine of Y, which is adjacent opposite 20 over 25, which is 4/5, which is 0.8. Here they want us to find a cosine in R and S, but we have a missing thing. We're missing the hypotenuse. So the first thing we're going to do is use the Pythagorean theorem to find what the hypotenuse is. So that's going to be 9 squared plus 12 squared square root. That's going to give us our hypotenuse, which is the square root of 225, which is 15. So that's our hypotenuse. That's part 1. All right, part 2, we get the cosine. So cosine of R is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's going to be 9 over 15, which is 3/5, which is 0.6. And then sine of R, no, cosine of S is 12 over 15, which is 4/5, which is 0.8. We're going to do the same thing for number 4. We have to find the hypotenuse first. So 16 squared plus 30 squared, square root all of that, that's going to give me the hypotenuse, which is the square root of 1156, which equals 34. So then we get the cosine of both R and S. Cosine of R is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 30 over 34, which is 15 over 17, which is 0.8824. And then cosine of S, which is 16 over 34, which is 8 over 17, is 0.4706. Alright, in example 3, use cosine to find the length of the other leg. So over here, we have to find the hypotenuse and then find the other leg. So we can do that by using first sine, then cosine. So step 1, find the hypotenuse. So sine of 35 equals 11 over the hypotenuse, opposite over hypotenuse. I'm going to multiply both sides by x and then divide both sides by sine 35, and I get that x is equal to 11 over sine 35. So x is going to equal 19.17, so 19.18. And then after that, I could find the other leg by saying cosine of 35 equals adjacent, which is y, over hypotenuse, which is the 19.18, which gives you y y is going to equal cosine of 35 times 19.18, which equals 15.71. Alright, first we find the hypotenuse using sine of 35, then we find the other leg using cosine of 35. Angle of elevation, angle of depression. So we talk about angle of elevation and depression. Suppose there's a dude on a plane looking down on a dude on the ground. The line of sight of the dude looking up on the plane is called the angle of elevation. The line of sight of the guy looking down on the dude is called the angle of depression. Okay? Angle of depression, line of sight of somebody looking down upon an object. Angle of elevation, the line of sight of someone looking up at an object. Okay, so then for number 6, we have a dude on some skis looking down on something. So this is going to be an angle of depression because he's looking down. I guess the vertical slope is 1200. His angle is 28 degrees he's looking down on. They want to know what his distance he goes down the slope. Okie dokie. 28, I have something that's opposite of that, so I'm going to use sine. So sine of 28 equals 1200 opposite over hypotenuse x. Multiply both sides by x, divide by sine 28. We get that x is equal to 1200 divided by sine of 28. So the distance of the slope that he went down is 2225. 2,556.07 meters. What if his angle of... Okay, so we have a dude on a ramp and he's going up 35 degrees. What's the vertical distance of the ramp? The height? What is the base of the ramp? Knowing that he's going up 35 degrees and the ramp I believe is 14 feet. Okay. So to find the height, it's going to be sine, so opposite over adjacent, so sine of 14 equals opposite, so I'm sorry, 35. 35 degrees equals opposite over hypotenuse, so x is going to equal sine of 35 degrees times 14. So the height of the ramp is about 8.03 cosine of the round, which gives me my base, is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So y is equal to sine 35 times 14. Whoops. How do I do that? Cosine 35 times 14. That equals to 11.47 feet. Special right triangles. So if we was to do the 30, 60, 90, so 30, 60, 90, this would be 1, this would be square root of 3, this would be 2. And then with 45, 45, 90, this would be 1, this would be 1, this would be square root of 2. So let's look at case number 1. If we do sine of 30 and cosine of 30, sine of 30 is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 1/2. Cosine of 30 is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is square root of 3 over 2. Sine of 60, cosine of 60. So here's our 60. Sine of 60 is opposite over hypotenuse, which is square root of 3 over 2. And then cosine of, or sine, yeah, cosine of 60 is 1 over 2, 1/2. And again, notice sine of 30 is the same thing as cosine of 60. Cosine of 30 is the same thing as cosine of 60. Then if we do 45, 45, 90, and if we did sine of 45, and we did cosine of 45, we would have 1 over the square root of 2. Well, we don't like the square root of 2 on the denominator, so we multiply both sides by root 2 over root 2, which gives me square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 45, same thing. It's going to be 1 over root 2, adjacent over hypotenuse. Root 2 over root 2 times 1 over root 2, which gives me square root of 2 over 2. So when you do sine of 45 and cosine of 45, it is the same answer, square root of 2 over 2. Okay. All right. That is this section. Hope you have a great rest of your day.